After days of closed-door meetings between the federal and provincial governments and the hereditary chiefs of the Wet'suwet'en nations who opposed the Coastal Link gas pipeline, there were claims of a big breakthrough deal over the weekend. But what does that really mean? Now, the details will not be released maybe for weeks. So will the blockades in places like Quebec actually end? And will the pipeline ever actually get built? Let's find out what we can with someone who was at the negotiating table. Federal Crown-Indigenous Services Minister Carolyn Bennett joins us now from Toronto. Minister, thanks for making time for us. Can you tell us just off the top, when will Canadians find out the details of this so-called deal that you may have struck with some of the hereditary chiefs?
The Denizé and Sakasé have determined that they will take the proposed arrangement back to their houses and clans within the next 2 weeks, and Minister Scott Fraser and I have committed to go back for a signing, and it will be up to the Wet'suwet'en nation to determine when the proposed arrangement is disclosed.
Okay, so it's on their timeline. Look, Canadians want to know, is part of the deal a guarantee that the Coastal Gas Pipeline actually gets built?
Evan, no, those were two separate conversations. The conversation about rights and title and the implementation of their rights and title that was determined in 1997 with the Delgamuukw decision, that is the breakthrough right now. It is, I think, historic in really us agreeing that the lands and title for the Wet'suwet'en Yintah territory will now be implemented as was decided at the Supreme Court, based on their traditional laws and governance and protocols, but together finding unity with the people of the Wet'suwet'en nation, such that they can take decisions together in the future and work truly nation to nation with Canada and British Columbia.
I understand rights and title, and that's an important issue from the 1997 Supreme Court Delgamuukw decision. And if hereditary chiefs will be part of that process in the future, as you say, that's fair enough. Does it have retroactive impact on the decade-long consultation process that got us to this point of conflict? In other words, for all the consultation on this to get the green light for the Coastal GasLink pipeline, does it impact that, or are you just talking about everything in the future?
Well, I think the implementation of rights and title is what we are going to expedite now. So that's a going forward as per Delgamuukw, when the Constitution, the governance is settled, and how the nation decides they want to take decisions together. So that is what's happened that is so much of a breakthrough. The Coastal GasLink project, as you know, was a BC process, and that issue is still unresolved. I think that
because most Canadians are looking. Most Canadians are looking at this and saying, we get that there's major issues going forward, but this meeting, a lot of it, they've heard now Chief Was, the leader of the hereditary chiefs that don't like this pipeline, they say they still oppose it. So did you ask the hereditary chiefs in exchange for this kind of deal on rights and title to ask leaders of the solidarity protests in Quebec, in Ganawage, for example, to stand down?
I think that this is the issue around Coastal Gas. Chief Was was pretty clear. They still don't want a pipeline. But I think that Minister Fraser was clear that those permits are still in place, and now there has to be a conversation between Coastal Gas and the Wet'suwet'en Nation and the RCMP that those issues are still outstanding. But as we go forward in the next 2 weeks, as we begin to really sit down and map out the expedited process for the implementation of rights and title, I think it is already having an effect of that kind of durability that makes sure that it would stand up in court to make sure that no future government could roll it back, and that it will be taken by the nation as they meet in their clans and houses and decide how they will take decisions in the future based on really what was proposed over the weekend.
Let me just get practical real quick. And I'll just run through a series of quick questions. Does anything that you guys discussed in these meetings, will that stop the protests against this pipeline either in BC, or will this stop the Kahnawake protest and the blockade in Quebec?
Well, I think that, again, that it is about people having the right for peaceful protests. Chief Wass said that. I think everyone was concerned that someone was going to get hurt, that this actually was escalating to the discomfort of everybody. And I think that today in Kahnawake, the Longhouse and those there are deliberating on their processes as to whether those blockades will come down.
To be candid, I know you're calling it, but you got parts of the Wet'suwet'en community have called the chiefs out. Troy Young wrote an open letter saying the hereditary chiefs have taken over the community's voice on Coastal GasLink. Don't you feel that you're undermining those voices on this pipeline?
I think that in the matriarchs that were present on Thursday night really were clear in their view of how decisions should be taken with the nation, and I think that's what we're providing is the way going forward that nations will take a decision together.
Will this pipeline get built?
I think that as Minister Fraser said, the permits are in place, and it is a conversation between Coastal Gas and the Wet'suwet'en Nation.
Okay, so no guarantee of that. All right, Minister, I gotta leave it there, Mr. Bennett. Thank you.